Hey everyone, my name is Jasmine and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my flows are all about accessibility and meeting you where you are on the mat. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you. Today's flow will be all about Sun Salutation B, a great energizing and moving meditation flow, which I'll drop in the description below. Sun Salutation B, again, is a moving meditation, and I typically use Sun Salutation B as a standalone practice or a warm up for a longer vinyasa flow. So today we'll move through 3 rounds of Sun Salutation B. The first round will be very slow. We'll go through the different moves and provide some different variations for you. And then rounds 2 and 3 will pick up the pace a little bit quick. So if you would like to utilize blocks in today's practice, feel free to grab your blocks. I have mine and let's flow. So come on down. Meet me in tabletop position here. I'm just going to move my blocks over here. And we're going to just move through a couple of different moves here today to get us started before we tap into our Sun Salutation B flow. So we're in our tabletop position here and just wanting to check in with our alignment. We have our hips over our knees here and then also our shoulders over our wrists. So not spilling over, but directly on top here. And let's move through some cat cows. So we're going to drop our bellies, open up our chest, look towards our eyebrows here, and then round your spine or cat pose. So flowing in between the two here and syncing our breath with our movement. And that's a really big key for today's practice. As we move through Sun Salutation B, I would like for you to sync your movement with your breath here through today's practice. So feel free to move through a couple of more cat cows on your own pace here. And wherever you are, just one more cat cow, and then meet me back in a neutral spine for a tabletop position here. And we're just going to come up and give our wrist a break here. So moving our wrists in a circle of motion just to give it a break. And then in the opposite direction and meeting me back into a tabletop position here. So we're going to do 2 more moves before we start our Sun Salutation flow. So let's go into bird dog here. So we're going to take our left leg here and stretch it out back. And then we're going to bring our right arm further up on our mat here. And so you could stay in this position for the bird dog pose if you're working on balance. If not, feel free to lift the back leg here, making sure that your hips are still squared. So facing towards the mat here. So this is an option for you as well. Or if you like, you can also raise your right hand here. And I'm already getting the shakes, but this is kind of what we're here for today. So just breathing through this one here. You're like, girl, you're shaking. I am. And return back to tabletop position. And we're going to repeat on the opposite side. So stretching your back leg out and then bringing your left arm a little bit further on your mat here, lifting your back leg and then also your opposite arm. And we're in bird dog and we're breathing. One more round of breath here, and then return back to our tabletop position. So here we are in tabletop, and we're going to do a modified kind of downward dog here. So first placing your left leg out off your mat here, and you're still in this tabletop position. And we're going to sit back in our hips here and then flow between the two. So returning back to that tabletop and then sitting back towards your hip. And we're going to move through a couple of rounds here. And then as you return to tabletop, untuck your right leg and you're gonna bring your both of your legs up as if you're going to a downward dog here, but it's a little funky here. And as you're standing strong in your arms, take your right arm and work towards reaching towards your left ankle here. Just a nice stretch in those quads here. And if you're not touching your ankle, that is totally fine. Returning your right arm back on the mat and then lowering your right knee. So we're just going to go back to flowing back and forth to this tabletop to kind of modify child's pose. And then on the next time you go back, you're going to untuck your toes and then lift your hips up for your modified downward dog. And then taking your right arm, reaching for your left ankle here. Returning back to your modified position here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our tabletop and then repeat this movement on the opposite side. So bringing your right leg off the mat here, and then you're going to flow in between the two movements here, a tabletop and then sitting towards the back of your hips. As you return to this tabletop position, you're going to untuck your toes and then lift your hips up for your modified downward dog. Now taking your left hand and reaching towards your right ankle here. And feel a nice stretch in the back side of your body. Return back by lowering your knees and then flowing in between, sitting on the back of your hips here, and then tabletop position. We're spilling off the mat today, aren't we? Already. On your next tabletop, you're going to push your hips back and up for your modified downward dog here and reaching towards your right ankle. Return back and lower your knee here, and then we're going to get back into a tabletop position. So what we're going to do now is we're going to swing our legs towards the front of our mat here and just take a breath. Before we get started, feel free to set an intention for today's practice. I like to move with kindness, and I really like to just appreciate my body for being here on today's mat and taking me through the sun salutation, giving you a moment to just settle in with yourself before we begin to move in this energizing flow. If your eyes have been closed, feel free to open them, placing your hands on the ground here. And then you're just going to meet me into Tadasana at the top of your mat or a mountain pose here to get started. So we're in our mountain pose and we're going to flow through our first round of Sun Salutation B. And so with this practice here, again, the first round, we're going to go through very slowly, work through some variations, and then we're going to pick up the speed a little bit for rounds 2 and 3. So here, let's begin in your traditional Tadasana or mountain pose here. So knees could be slightly bent, hands placed to your side here. And we're going to root all four corners of our feet into the mat here and check in with our bodies, our breath. Inhale, sweeping your hands up. And then exhale, sitting your hips back into a chair pose here. And then have your arms above your body here in this chair pose. And then we're going to exhale, bringing our hands to the ground here. Knees could still be bent for a forward fold. So knees could be bent as generously as you like. You could work towards straight. However, this is a really great starting point. If you're new to the practice or coming back here, inhale, straighten the legs here for halfway lift here. So imagine that you have a tennis ball or an orange, some piece of fruit here that you're trying to keep stable for a nice straight back here. Exhale, we're going to bring our hands to the mat here and we're going to go into a plank. Your plank could be supported, or you could also be in a full plank as well, whichever feels great for you. So I'm going to start out in a supported plank, and we're going to reach our crown towards the top of our mat and lower down for a chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog, whatever feels right for you. And then we're going to exhale, push our hips back for downward dog. Knees could be as well bent or working towards straight. And then you're pushing away from the earth here. So not falling into this pose, but pushing away from the earth. Inhale, sweeping your right leg up. Exhale, step into warrior one here. So with our warrior one pose, our back leg is in a 45-degree angle and our hips are forward. So imagine if you have some headlights on your hips, you're wanting those pointing straight forward in front of you in this pose. For warrior one, lowering your hands down into a plank. It could be full or supported. Chaturanga, up dog or cobra, pushing back and up to a downward dog. Inhale, sweeping your left leg up, stepping into a warrior one. Checking your alignment here. Bringing back down to your plank pose, supported or full. Chaturanga, cobra or up dog. Pushing into downward dog. You can jump or walk to halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweeping your hands up. Exhale, sitting into the chair pose. Exhale, return to mountain pose. Ta-da! So that was our full first round of Sun Salutation B. And if you're breathing hard like me, that is a-okay. That means we are moving and grooving. So what we're going to do now is move through flows 2 and 3, and then use the variation that works for you. So if you need to be in a full or supported plank, do what's best for you. Whatever speaks to you is what I'd like for you to incorporate in today's practice. And then as you build up, you can work towards those traditional poses. But again, variations are key because that what really makes yoga all about accessibility is trying those different modifications. So we're going to come back to the top of our mat here and we're going to flow through the rounds. And again, use your variation. So let's start off in mountain pose. Inhale, sweep your hands up, sit back to chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, stepping back to your plank. Chaturanga, up dog or cobra. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, sweeping your right leg up, stepping into warrior one. Bring it down, plank, chaturanga, up dog cobra. Exhale, back to downward dog. Inhale, sweeping your left leg up, stepping into your warrior one here. Exhale, back to your plank pose, chaturanga, up dog or cobra, pushing up to downward dog, stepping into halfway lift, exhale, forward fold, chair, Tadasana or mountain pose. How are we feeling? We got one more round before we go into our cool down and Shavasana. Begin in mountain pose. Inhale, sweep your hands up. Exhale, chair. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Stepping back to plank. Chaturanga. Cobra up dog. Pushing into downward dog. Inhale, sweeping your right leg up. Step into warrior one. Back to plank. Chaturanga. Up dog or cobra. Pushing into downward dog. Sweeping your left leg up. Stepping into warrior one. Plank. Chaturanga. Up dog or cobra. Pushing into your downward dog. Looking forward. Walk to your halfway. Lift. Exhale, forward fold. Sit into chair. And then release into Tadasana or mountain pose. Placing your hands at heart. And we're going to take a breather. Take a breath here. And relish into our 3 rounds of Sun Salutation B. Place your hands to your side for a more traditional Tadasana or mountain pose. And now I'm just going to move here to the center to congratulate you. That was great. I love tapping into a Sun Salutation B because it's a repetition move. And sometimes when my head is everywhere, I can get on the mat, tap into Sun Salutation A or Sun Salutation B. And those repetition moves really just helps my mind get focused and calm. And again, I love to tap into this practice because it just does wonders for my body. So come back to this practice when you really want to tap into something that doesn't require as much thinking, but it can get you moving on the mat. So before we move or get off the mat today, let's tap into our cool down and Shavasana. So if you can, meet me back in a easy seated pose here with your legs out. We're going to inhale, sweep our hands up. And we're going to take our right arm and place it on the ground or your mat. And we're going to give ourselves a nice side stretch by leaning over to the right side of our body, leading with our left arm here. Inhale, sweep both arms up. And then we're going to repeat on the opposite side. Really feeling that side stretch all throughout the body. And we're just going to repeat one more time on each side. So inhale, sweeping your hands up, and then placing that right arm on the ground and leaning over to the right side of your body, leading through your left arm here for a nice side stretch. Repeat on the opposite side. Returning now both arms to the ground here. And I'm just going to find my way to Shavasana. However that looks for you, just meeting me there, lowering down to the ground here. And feel free if you like a couple of variations. You can grab a bolster and you can place it underneath the back of your knees here if you want to have a more restorative. Or you can also plant your feet on the ground And let your knees rest here for a constructive rest here, or we can tap more into our traditional savasana. So finding whatever pose feels good for you. And before I go quiet, I just like for you to tap back into your original intention today for today's practice. Mine was to simply be kind to myself, thank my body for moving. I'm just going to sit with that after this lovely, energizing practice here. And take the deepest inhale of today's practice. Exhale through your mouth. If you have more time to be in Shavasana, I always encourage you to. However, if you are coming out with me, begin to open your eyes if they have been closed, reconnecting with yourself on the mat. You can wiggle your fingers, your toes, move your head side to side. Reconnect with your surroundings. And then you can turn over to whichever side feels comfortable for you. In our fetal position here, and then pushing yourself up with the hand that is closest to the ground. Again, thank you for joining me in today's practice. I truly appreciate it. And come back whenever you want to just move without thinking. Tapping into the Sun Salutation B is the great practice for that. Until next time, bye.